Welcome back to the So Your Baby Daddy Show, where we discuss all things child support, custody, and divorce. Today, we're switching up the narrative a little bit. Instead of discussing what it looks like to be a litigant in family law, we're going to talk about what it looks like to work in family law. I'm joined by my two powerhouse paralegals, Caitie Dominguez and Caitie Ginn, and they have worked for me for a couple of years now. Very, very happy to have them today on the green seat. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about y'all's journey. I know that it looks different for each one of you. Caitie, you can go first.
Okay, my name is Caitie. I'm a native of California. I've been in Texas for a little over 12 years now, and that's how long I've been doing family law. So I actually started in the workers' compensation field in California. I needed a job, and so I got a job as a clerk for a workers' compensation lien collection firm. So we were essentially helping providers collect, and they treated injured employees. So I did that for a couple of years, and I actually ended up on the insurance defense side. So completely opposite. And I liked that because it was a breadth of knowledge, right? Like you have to, in family law, you represent your client, but you also, to represent them well, have to put yourself in the seat of opposing counsel, right? And so I got a chance to do that early on. And so that really was the beginning of my experience with investigating and researching, which I think is one of the biggest assets of a family law paralegal.
Absolutely,
I know you can testify to that.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I made the move to Texas. And as you know, Texas is not employee friendly. It's not workers' compensation friendly. It's definitely for employers. So I knew that I was going to have to pivot the legal field, but I knew I wanted to stay in the legal field.
Okay.
So I, like any good paralegal, researched the contact information for every attorney I could find around me. And I sent my resume and I said, look, I don't have any experience in your field, but I have the tools, I have the foundation to be who you need me to be. I have a passion in law and I can adapt. So I got one call back, and it ended up being the employer that I started my family law journey in. And I started off as just an assistant. I remember the first week she said, just study the file. I did, and I'm here today, and I'm grateful for it.
And how long were you with that employer?
I was with her for 12 years.
Like a one and done. So lucky.
Yeah.
One and done.
Yeah, it
The
was.
one call you get back.
Yeah. No, it was. I'm really happy where I am here too with you. It's definitely a different aspect of family law. You're very technology forward in your firm, and I appreciate that. I came from a boutique firm that we really kind of dealt with paper, and so that's not really so common anymore. But I've learned a lot about how to better service our clients with the technologies that you're utilizing in the firm, and I appreciate that.
Well, that's good feedback. So I know that Caitie is, she comes from a private investigator background, so now a paralegal as well, and has been promoted in my firm to director of operations. But today we're going to tailor the conversation to what it looks like to be a paralegal. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I started out at 18, really before then, with my father. He owned his own private investigation company in and around the DFW area, mainly Tarrant County. And I would go to work with him as a kid, which was annoying back then. But once I turned 18 and realized, I had a knack for it, private investigations, process service, all that good stuff. I got my license, and I did that. I held my license until around 2016 when my father passed, because I just didn't want to carry on with it anymore. And at that time, I was already a paralegal.
Yeah.
But that's what got me into the area of law. And it was very easy to transition over into family law, just because, a lot of our clients, attorneys, law firms in the downtown area, they did a lot of divorces.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of my dad's client base.
Yeah.
Some personal injury, some civil, and then a lot of family.
Right.
So I grew up around those big firms, those names, those people. And so when I started kind of making a name for myself, doing investigations, then that's how I got my foot in the door to the legal world.
Yeah.
I crossed sides. Being an investigator isn't exactly the same, but a lot of the skills and knowledge transfers.
Right.
So when I took my first legal assistant job, I worked for a solo attorney, and I worked for him for a little over a year, which I'll talk about short-term positions later on. But worked for him a little over a year. He ended up moving, becoming a DA, and then I worked for another solo. and a couple of small firms here and there. But I always knew that wherever I was going to next, I wanted to progress. I wanted to have, a bigger and better title. I wanted more responsibilities. I wanted to soak up all the knowledge. So, having the background in investigation, I think was, like you said, I mean, it's such a valuable skill when becoming a paralegal, because one, you just get to be nosy, but two, it really helps your attorneys and it really helps your clients if they've got a sleuther, a 2-in-1. So paralegal / sleuther.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And so for those who are unfamiliar, I want to talk about just the difference between a legal assistant versus a paralegal versus a board certified paralegal versus an attorney. I really want to break down the basics in the beginning. And the interesting thing about Caitie and Caitie is that they are both board certified. I see people calling themselves certified paralegal because they have obtained a certificate at an accredited program somewhere. But I'd really like to educate our community in telling them that that is very different from a BCP, a board certified paralegal. So just break down what it takes to be where y'all are at and the differences in those positions.
Okay. I didn't have any formal training as a paralegal, so I started off as an assistant and then a legal assistant. When I started this journey, I had dropped out of college, so I didn't have a bachelor's degree either.
Okay.
Essentially, it was the middle of the 2008 recession. I needed a job, and then it just snowballed from there.
did you have your associates already then?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't. So I was going to a 4-year university, but the financing ran out, so I had to stop. And then we moved.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Sure.
it's important to note that, because we would get this question a lot in the comments, is do you have to have a college degree to work in a law firm? And so, I mean, there are many paralegals, legal assistants, even board certified paralegals, right, that don't have a college degree, but have worked their way up. Now you have your college degree, which is an incredible asset. Yeah, she just graduated, so very happy for her. But I think it's a great opportunity for people who, don't necessarily have the investment to, go to college, but they want to find themselves in a career where they can work their way up in these positions.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay, so in my opinion, experience is really where you earn your title. From legal assistant to paralegal. You can be a paralegal and not have a certificate per se, right? So when I applied to the to take that board certified exam, I didn't have a certificate. I didn't have a bachelor's degree, but you needed at least 7 years of experience. And so if that's what their requirement is, because that's where the value is in experience. And so legal assistant is definitely an asset to the paralegal and to the attorney, but you're taking on minor tasks. It's really the drafting is where the heavy hitting is for a paralegal, and more so for a board certified paralegal, right? The more complex.
Legal assistant is like just prepping you to become, it's the prerequisite to becoming a paralegal.
Yeah. Right.
If I ever hear someone say like, oh, I just became a paralegal one day, I'm like, well, I'm like, have you been through the,
do you understand litigation? That's my thing is like, I'm really looking for somebody that understands litigation. I came from a personal injury background in law school. So I had a period there where I was working for some PI firms, and I would see people call themselves paralegals, but really they were a caseworker, which is just as valuable. It just, to me, it doesn't give paralegal because they're not doing discovery work. Now, if there are paralegals that work in personal injury, but if you're working that like pre-litigation docket, then anybody that has worked in PI knows that caseworkers, their primary job is to write demand letters. It's to follow up with insurance companies and make sure that clients are going to treatment. That is very different from a paralegal who understands litigation, knows how to look at discovery, knows how to do some basic legal research. And so
put together a case strategy.
Prepare for trial. Those are all tasks that we would expect our paralegals to do, versus like e-filing and following up with clients and, answering intake calls. That to me is giving more legal assistant, right? And it's okay that I see some people put it on their resume. I see them put it on their resume because that is what the attorney themselves the attorney that they worked for calls them. you know, but it's, to me, I'm like, okay, I want to really create an environment for our administrative staff to know, okay, if you're going to call yourself a paralegal at my firm, like, here's the expectations, right? Like, here are the tasks that I expect you to know. I don't care what your resume says.
Yeah.
If you were called a paralegal at your previous firm, then, you know, I want to know, what paralegal tasks did you do? And it's very easy to tell the difference between somebody who hasn't been challenged enough through no fault of their own with previous employers. But I definitely, you know, Caitie helps me interview them. She's now not only director of operations, but she also helps me with recruiting. And so that's one of the jobs that she has been trained in, is to be able to ask those interview questions and like really get those answers from them as far as like, what tasks are you familiar with? So Caitie, tell me a little bit about what you see in these like resumes and what you would like to see as well.
Yeah. One point I wanted to go back to was, you said when you were applying for the TBLS, the board certification, which is through the Texas Board of Legal Specialization, that because you didn't have a degree, you needed the experience.
Right.
There's so many different ways to get there, which, you know, all of these things do help your resume, you know, in whatever format. At the time that I applied, I had at least the 5 years experience, but I also had 2 associate degrees. So, you know, if you're interested in advancing your career and looking good on paper, on your resume, interviewing well, interviewing for something that may be just a tad bit outside of your reach, but you're going to go for it, it's okay to not have, you know, to not be board certified yet, or it's okay to not have a degree. Like she said, you know, you don't have to have a degree to learn.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's definitely looks better on paper. And if you ever have the intention of going to law school, absolutely.
Right. Well, when we were interviewing Kathy, we came across many resumes. And for us, it was like, okay, great, she's board certified. But even if she wasn't, her resume would have stood out to us because of the consistency and longevity that she had with her previous employer versus somebody with a 4-year degree that maybe just had a couple of years as a paralegal, right? So I'm like, I am much more attracted to the resume where there's consistency, where, you know, you can see that there's loyalty, and also just, you know, continued interest in the practice area. Right. Because
so when I'm looking at a resume, I'm like, you know, I think to myself, okay, well, are they bouncing around titles?
Yeah.
Because to me, for myself personally, you know, like I mentioned, I always wanted to be moving up.
Yeah.
You know, whatever my title was, I wanted it to say legal assistant, paralegal, you know, family law paralegal, senior paralegal. You know, I always wanted to be moving up. And some people are like, oh, that's just a title. Well, it might be, but if you're adamant about progressing your career, it's not just a title.
I agree.
You know, it's when you get all the way to being board certified, that is a different level of respect that you know, garner from your peers.
And it's an absolute asset to the attorney to be able to have their paralegals corresponding with opposing firms and being able to show in the signature block that, like, we have board certified paralegals. Like, it's definitely an asset.
Oh, don't you love when you call an office and they're like, the OC, opposing counsel's like, oh, I don't speak to paralegals.
So we had that issue this past week. I know. I wanted to bring that up because we had that issue, and I had to respond because it's cost effective. Let's start there. So an attorney should not be responding to every single email to opposing counsel. If it's just to relay information, then I'm going to get a paralegal to do that. They're more than capable. And I find that some attorneys, they don't want to challenge their paralegals to be able to, you know, put them in those roles and responsibilities.
Or they just don't trust them.
They don't trust them.
And they don't think that they're going to, you know, they may slip up and say the wrong thing.
Which is going to hinder their growth, you know? Yeah. And speaking of, you know, showing on your resume that that you've been progressing in the titles, you remember when we were interviewing Bailey, we were actually looking for, you know, I think it was, we really liked her, but we were like, okay, she doesn't have the traditional 5 years of experience that we typically require for our junior paralegals. And so we said, but we have some work in intake. Like, would you be interested in doing intake? And I really respected and admired that she told us, like, no, I'm here to be a paralegal. Right. I'm here to learn and grow as a paralegal. And I was like, yeah, that's somebody that's going to check the box. And we found work for her. And now we're really glad we hired her when we did because the work definitely came in. But I think that that's important for sure.
I do have a hot take on resumes, though. Okay. I think switching every 2 years is not that bad. Okay.
It's
Hot
the trend.
take.
It's the trend.
It is.
Yeah.
But I say that for two reasons. One, because I'm a personal victim of it. But a lot of those were kind of out of my control. My first boss, he moved to be a DA. My second one started running for a judge's seat.
Yeah.
So there was reasons why, and they weren't, they were out of my control. But two, if you've been somewhere for 2 years and you're a hardworking employee and you enjoy your job and you put forth your best effort every day and you're not being recognized for it, that doesn't mean it has to be a raise. But if you're not being recognized for it and you're not growing, you're not getting those bigger assignments, you're not being trusted with clients or OCs or whatever the case may be, like you'll know, when you know. 2 years is about the mark.
Yeah. 2 years is the mark to know, am I going to go, am I going to be, moving up in this firm?
Do they value me?
Do they value me?
Do you value yourself? Statistically, it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to settle into a role.
Yeah.
It takes about a year to become familiar with people in your office, depending on the number of, people in your office.
Yeah.
And really build those work relationships with them, trust them, trust your boss, and then, be in that position and then have that extra time to grow and show that you want more.
Yeah.
So if after 2 years, you're going and getting coffee and your day's the same.
Yeah. Well, we interviewed somebody that, holds a position at our firm now. And that was one of the things that really attracted her to our firm, was that when we were interviewing her, she was, basically telling us, hey, I want to be challenged more. Like, I want to do more than just the simple uncontested divorce drafting. I want to do more than simply e-filing. And I want to do deep dives into discovery. And that was something that she wasn't really given the opportunity to do at her previous firm. And so I just really admire people that are willing to get out of their comfort zone and being like, I want to work for you because I want to grow, right? And I agree that, like, if your employer is still just kind of keeping you here after 2 years, then that's why that's that trend in our generation of like, I'm going to switch to a different firm, either for a pay raise or to just be recognized. Like, people say, they don't leave jobs, they leave employers themselves, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely.
And I always hate the like, oh, well, if, you tell your employer, well, I've got another job offer or whatever, and they're like, well, let me give you some more money. Well, then the money was already there.
It was already there.
Yeah. You just don't want to have to deal with me leaving. You don't want to have to deal with replacing me.
Yeah.
That's really what that boils down to. So that should be still a red flag, and you should still go.
And speaking of red flags for employers, like, what would you say is, aside from like not being valued and recognized and the pay not being there, just some other red flags that you don't think are talked enough about in our industry?
Red flag.
We're a family.
Yes. Okay.
When people say like, we're a family, I would just hear like, so you're not going to be able to differentiate between the boundary of employer and a family member. Like, we all care about each other. We all respect each other as we would like a family member. But like, no, there's boundaries. There's lines that can be crossed.
That's why there's work hours.
That's why there's work hours. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So red flags, do you mean like employees look at employers or employers look at employees?
I think like, if we have somebody that is looking for their first job in a law firm. Like, what are some red flags that they should be looking out for whenever they're interviewing with these firms?
Okay, well, the first thing I do, and maybe this is the BCP, the board certified paralegal in me, is I go look at the status of their state bar profile.
Yeah, that's a smart one.
Do they have any suspensions?
I've never done that. That's so smart.
That's what I want to know first. I personally like to know about the person I'm going to work for. I might look at their social media profile and see how they value people, how they value their relationships. I want to know what college they went to, because this isn't just a job. It's somebody that is going to mentor me, right? Teach me what I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, like, I want to research independently what the work culture is. Do they have a website where they have a bio? Hey, do those employees look happy? You know what I'm saying?
Was their website created in 2003? You know what? That just gave me a flashback. I totally forgot this moment in my career.
With what?
I worked for someone impersonating an attorney one time.
What?
I totally forgot about that.
Oh my God.
I didn't look them up. Yeah. Yes. And come to find out, she had been like arrested for like running over her boyfriend like out in Dallas somewhere.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she was a fake attorney, and she got like a fake office, and like I
UPL.
so bad.
Unauthorized practice of law. Don't do that.
I can't even remember her name. It was like a week, and I thought it was like weird at first, but you know
What gave it away?
because the office was like fake. Like she set me at a desk in like downtown Fort Worth, the big the Bass Towers.
Yeah.
She set me in a desk in there with a phone, like a computer, and was like, go to work. And I'm like, on what? And I just thought like,
Did she give you like case files that she was, scamming people
she
from?
was giving me like, she had like
That's crazy.
like a Word, like OneDrive with like immigration stuff in it.
Like, what do I do?
Now looking back,
Why am I here?
or after the fact, thinking back on it, I was like, those were just like immigration forms that she just put like fake information to, or she probably pulled off like a district clerk website or something. I totally forgot about that.
That is
that was nuts.
crazy.
Because your girl's never been out of work for more than 7 days, and I just took it because
But your intuition was like, this
yeah,
isn't
and
it.
I was just like, the third or fourth day that I went in there, I was like, where is she? Where's all the things? Why isn't the phone ringing? Like, my intuition should have kicked in way before that, but I was just like, I can't, like, I gotta work, and DoorDash, like, wasn't a thing back then, so.
Well, glad to know that you're working for a real law firm
So,
now.
check them out beforehand.
Where was Kathy to give you this
I know.
advice?
Like, where were you? Where were you?
Yeah, but each attorney, like they have a state bar profile, and you can see if they have any public grievances, any like temporary suspensions of their license and whatnot. And so I think that that's really important for sure, because not only is it like who is mentoring you, but also like what is the professional reputation that you are about to attach yourself to, right? As well. I think that that's important.
Exactly.
Another good tip, if you're getting your foot in, or you're wanting to expand, network, right? But if you really want the inside tea about somebody you may see, and this is the direction I went,
Spill it.
was join a family law bar association, a paralegal association. Get to know your ladies in and around you at the other firms, frequent the Mexican food place down the street from all the offices or something.
This is coming from the private investigator. So she's like,
See, I was like more boots on the ground.
She's like, stalk them.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
But that's how you get the tea, like on whether someone's a good attorney or not, or whether, how they treat their clients, how they treat their staff. If you ever get cussed at, go.
Yeah.
What about people that like are interviewing for their first firm and they're kind of torn between like, do I go work for the solo attorney, or do I go work for like the boutique firm with a few attorneys, or do I go work for the big law firm with like 50? What would you say, what would you advise them to look for in those first couple of positions?
So I didn't, because I was hungry. I needed to, needed a job,
like
right?
a job.
The one who responded was a solo attorney, but I don't think I would have had it any other way. I think it made it a comfortable and conducive environment to me learning that, it's just a solo practitioner. They are invested in you improving because you help them, right? It's not so, it's more personable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what helps you kind of develop your confidence.
Yeah.
I think confidence is one of the biggest assets for any paralegal, especially board certified. And I think even when you're interviewing too, right?
Yeah.
Because the way that these people are coming across to you is how they're going to come across to the clients.
Yeah.
Because we are, the point of contact for the firm, for the attorney. And so if I'm not confident in you because you're not confident in yourself, it's not going to go very far, right?
I agree. And I think that there's something to be said about like the true solo, that they've done paralegal work. And so,
absolutely, yeah.
If they didn't have a paralegal background prior to attending law school, that true solo had to do paralegal work at the beginning of their career before they had the budget to hire a paralegal, So I came from a paralegal background prior to law school. I worked in family law, and I was definitely a victim to being called like something, a title that I did not really deserve at the moment, So I went from like legal assistant to paralegal to senior paralegal because I got my certificate from UT Austin in paralegal studies or something like that. But I didn't learn anything in that certification program. And I was not a board certified paralegal from getting a certificate. And that's one of the things I really want our viewers to understand. Very, very different. And I think that too many people fall to, into those scams online where they're like, oh, I want to be a board certified paralegal. And if they don't understand that there's like an actual exam, like statewide, certification that you have to do. And going, Googling like, hey, local paralegal certificates is not what's going to get you a board certification.
Yeah. Like,
So-
I have an associate's degree
Yeah.
in paralegal studies.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm maybe not the best to give it any credit, but I didn't really learn too much, but I was already in the field. Like I was already in a paralegal position when I was like working through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. What about you? I've never given like too much credit to like NALA.
Okay. Yeah.
Great institution. And I know that a lot of people do. And like certainly in other states.
What is NALA?
The
That's
National Association of Legal Assistants.
Okay, gotcha.
So other states do place a lot of emphasis on that.
Okay.
For states that require you to have some sort of certificate or something like that. Texas doesn't unless you're going to be board certified.
Okay, so I am in several Texas paralegals Facebook group. There's one for the state of Texas, and there's also one for family law.
Yeah.
And what I see a lot are people who are newly certificated and they're having trouble finding employment. And I feel like the experience really kind of trumps the certificate. I think that if you do
Absolutely.
want to become a paralegal, the first thing that you should pursue is experience and then enhance that with your
Yes.
certificate, because you're more
Agree.
likely to find a job that way, right? Because
Right.
the certificate, it doesn't help if there's no experience to back that up. At this point, law and family law is booming, right? And
It
so
is.
whether that's a good or bad thing about society, I'm not sure. We don't like to see people get divorced and, you know, but it is what it is. And so a lot of the times we need someone who has experience, even as a legal assistant, who knows how to file and hit the ground running. And so I would just encourage you that if this is the path that you want to pursue, start with experience. And if you are certificated already and you have that first, then start with the understanding that maybe you won't start as a paralegal, you'll start as a legal assistant, but that's how you get there. It is a step, right? You don't go from, I have a certificate to I am board certified,
Correct.
right? Because I had to have those 7 years of experience first. So.
Yeah.
And is there like and I don't guess I really know from an employer perspective, even though I've been looking at resumes and interviewing, but I kind of think it's a cart before the horse, like you said. Like I agree, don't get the certificate and then be like, okay, well I'm ready to be a paralegal.
Right.
I think I would assume as a paralegal from an employer's perspective that like, oh well they've spent, they're gonna want more money than what they're worth because they spent it getting this certification that they didn't even
Yeah.
really need.
I definitely see that whenever we talk about like salary requirements and what it is that they're wanting. Whenever we ask those questions in an interview, it's a little bit of entitlement because, they have gone and gotten those certificates at a local community college or something, right? But I agree. It's like experience before the certificate. And that's how I started. Like I did have my...
I feel like from a paralegal's state of mind is, oh, well, I'm valuable because I have this certificate now when,
But
real world experience
Yeah.
versus
I got mine from UT Austin. I didn't learn anything. Like I did not learn anything. But for some reason, like my employer was like, okay, yeah, I'll call you a senior paralegal and pay you a couple bucks more an hour. And that's what they did. And, I think it also makes the employer look good that they have like senior paralegals and
Right,
whatnot. But at our firm, like we have the luxury of saying like, hey, we have board certified paralegals. If you're going to call yourself a senior paralegal at our firm, like you have to be board certified, right? And, I agree that this is going to be a career where you might have to work a second job in the beginning if you're going to be a legal assistant, depending on your circumstance, your situation, your budgets and everything, because not everybody can live off of a legal assistant salary in the beginning, know?
Yeah.
And so whenever I started in this field, like I was living with my parents, I literally printed out my resume and cover letter, just dropped it off to different lawyers in town. I lived in a small town and I said, I'll work for free. Obviously, that is not the luxury that a lot of people have, but I was like, I can at least come in 2 to 3 days out of the week because I didn't know what it looked like to work in a law firm. I said, I speak Spanish and I can answer some phones. Like, that's what I can do. He offered me $10 an hour. That was more than what my dad was paying me at the time. So I was like, I'll take it. I did that 3 days out of the week, moved to the city, and then got my first like more paralegal related work job. And I didn't know what I was doing. I think it's really important that if you're gonna work for the true solo, that either they're willing to mentor you or that there's a paralegal there that's willing to mentor you. Because I got it wrong twice in the beginning of my career. My first 2 jobs at law firms, no mentors at all. Was just expected to know and was criticized and not a positive way, right, for not knowing. It wasn't until my 3rd employer that she was a true solo. She took the time to really teach me, like, hey, here's how you draft things. Here's what you can expect. An order comes with a motion. Like, this is procedure, right? Procedure is what we expect our paralegals to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have either of y'all worked in the big law firms with 50 plus 50 plus attorneys?
So I was going to say, like, you, depending how you want your career to go, I mean, that's, you kind of have to map out what you want to do. Like, if you can feel out a solo for a little while and you decide maybe that's not for you, or you just can't find the right fit because that's a very close-knit working relationship, move on to a mid-sized firm, try that on for size. You may be working for a few different attorneys there, or maybe you just might be assigned to just 1 or 2, which is more common, I feel like.
Yeah.
But when I was doing, what do you call it? Where you like sub in? Why can't I think about this right now? Where you work for a company, but they send you to do
temp?
like temp work.
Oh,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yes.
And you're doing
So
temp work.
I did temp work for a little bit for one of the major companies, and they were sending me to, big time corporate law firms. And I felt so small. After working for solos and, a mid-sized firm, I just felt very small, and I was like, how does anyone ever get noticed here? How does anyone ever exceed when, like, if you want to be a big roller, you got to come in with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
it felt kind of defeating, but it was temporary work, and your girl needed some money, so I didn't really judge it too much. I was only there for a short time, not a long time.
I really don't have any interest in working for a firm that big. You lose how personable it is. And because family law is just really emotionally heavy, you do need the support of comrades, right? You're all in this together. And so I couldn't imagine working at a firm where it's really just kind of a mill, right, of work to be done. So no, thank you.
Yeah. I think that what you said was, it stood out to me that, like, how does anybody ever get, like, noticed around here, And I think that one of the things to really look for whenever you're interviewing with attorneys is, like, am I going to be valued? Like, is my voice going to be valued? Because whether you're interviewing as an attorney, as a paralegal, as a legal assistant, as the intake, you need to know that if you see a flaw in their systems, or if there's a way that you notice something could be done better, that if you speak up about it, or even if it's a concern,
They're not just going to
they're not just going to be like, sorry, not paying attention to you. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Because if an employee is raising an issue, then it's because they are foreseeing a problem, a bigger problem that could be up ahead, right? So that's something that you really want to look for, in my opinion, whenever you're interviewing.
One thing I've always paid attention to whenever I go to interviews, or would go to interviews, because I won't be doing that anymore. But
good to know. She's not going anywhere.
One thing I always looked for, like, if it was at the firm, how quiet was it whenever I walked in?
That would drive me
How
crazy.
quiet was it? Because, like, if it's a sleepy little law firm, and everybody's just, coming to do their time and leaving at 5, there's not,
like, a
if
lot
you
of
don't hear laughter or something going on,
Yeah.
Can I just say, too, that I have dealt with paralegals, and board-certified paralegals at that, from these kind of law firms, and I'm sorry, but they're not really nice. And maybe there's something to be said about that, about the work environment that they're in, but
maybe it's just the emotional weight has gotten to them over the years. Because it can. It definitely can. That is definitely something to be, like, aware of.
Or maybe that's the kind of attitude that management has, and
Maybe.
therefore they do.
So red
that's
flag
another
either
thing.
way.
Yeah.
Definitely a red flag. And I think that you can see that more whenever, like, the paralegals are overworked. And so, they're coming in and they're bringing in this new person, and they're kind of like, okay, you either got to, like, keep up. I'm not going to teach you. Like, they're in a bad mood because they've been overworked. They're not trained in leadership to like really sit down and mentor a new paralegal, right? And you can definitely tell, by the environment.
To me, because, like, if somebody, I mean, I guess you're right. Like, if that's the management, if that's the view and you fit there, then But I've never understood that, because if someone is coming in to where I work, I'm going to be working in tandem with them, collaborating with them. I want them to do a good job.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go back
Yeah.
over their work. I don't want to have to explain or take the blame
Right.
for something.
But that goes into
You know.
what like Caitie was explaining is that like you need the confidence to have that attitude.
Yeah.
Some
Oh,
people
yeah.
they're like, oh, who's this newbie that's going to come in and take over my role? Like they get
Yes.
insecure.
Just, insecurity.
When I'm like, it's insecurity. Exactly. It's like, how much confidence do you really have as far as
Nobody
like,
can ever take my job from me because nobody can ever take your job from me.
Yeah,
because,
okay.
like,
I know.
I've worked way too hard, okay?
Yeah,
like,
same.
I'm not worried about anybody
that is
else.
true. That
That's
is-
also not the right mindset to have. You're a team. This is collaborative.
Yeah.
You're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yes.
So you want to invest in these people.
Yeah, I definitely look for that as somebody that has multiple staff members now, like different hierarchies of paralegal. I'm looking at, okay, is this person mentoring the junior level paralegals? Are the junior level paralegals, are they amicable with like our intake and billing, and do they listen to them, right? Like, what's the leadership style, or do they like to just kind of work on their own?
So one tip, one piece of advice, I feel like you'll agree with me because you started this way. Okay. So if you, it's, again, you kind of have to pick that path you're going to mold for yourself. You're going to go solo, you're going to work mid-firm, you want big corporate.
Yeah.
If you're going the solo route, I'll admit, when I first started my first legal assistant position, while I did know, the difference between a summons and a subpoena or a this and a that, and I knew the basics of it, I didn't really know too much, but I didn't tell anybody that. Like, I just went in there and I was
But
like,
you were resourceful.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Google it.
Google it.
Google it. Somebody has done it before you. You're not going to do anything that's never been done. So go find an example. And I would be in there, like, he'd ask me to do something, and I'd be like, yeah, sure, got it. And I'd go back and look at, other files. And I'd just, piecemeal something together. And of course, he'd print it out and redline it, make it bleed, and give it back to me. Great learning experience.
Right.
But, the thing working for a solo is like, if you're going to do that, you don't have to know everything right off the bat. But the good part about that is that there's not too many people looking at you if you're doing something wrong. You learn it. I feel like you learn it better. And I hate to say it.
What?
You know what's coming.
What?
Trial by fire.
Oh, yeah. I don't think
But
there's
it's so
any
true.
paralegal that hasn't been burned. There are some things that you'll just never forget because you were burned. And maybe that's for attorneys too, right?
Yeah. And
absolutely.
You have to look for the culture that's like, okay, trial by fire, but like, if you do get burned, speak up about it.
Right.
And that your employer's not going to scold you. They're going to appreciate the honesty and the transparency of the mistake that's being brought forward, and being like, okay, pretty much anything, like any mistake, it can be fixed, but thank you for being honest, because at that point now you're developing trust, and that goes so much further. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, I also want to talk about, just in more specifics, you guys are both board certified. So we talk about how you need 7 years. What if somebody doesn't have the 7 years? Like, are they still able to become board certified here in Texas, or how does that work?
So it's like a tiered system. Is 7 years the max for no degree, no certifications?
It's the minimum.
The minimum.
The minimum,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the minimum for me, and I happened to be at my 7th year, so it worked out well.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it was like 5 years with an associate's degree.
Okay.
Or it can be like, what's the top?
I'm not sure if you have a bachelor's degree, it's a lot faster to get there.
So it's like the more degrees you have, the less time you have to be doing
Right.
it. The more experience you have, the less degrees. Yes, but the main thing is that the preceding 5 years to whatever area of law you're wanting to be board certified in, you have to be doing that for the preceding 5 years.
Yeah.
That's important
And your
to highlight.
CLE, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, because just like attorneys being board certified, paralegals, if they're going to be board certified, they need to pick a practice area that they're going to be certified in.
Right.
So you could be board certified in civil litigation and personal injury, or I think that those two would go inside, right? But our paralegals are board certified in family law, as far as our senior paralegals go. So that's important. And then you take a test, right? So
I called it the mini bar exam.
it is a mini bar exam. You guys learn procedure just in the same way that we do, and the Texas Family Code, right?
Yeah, and it also includes Texas Rules of Civil Procedure as well. And there was like appellate questions too, I recall. A few, not much. It's like main deadlines, 30 days after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I appreciate about my 7 years of experience is that a lot of the questions questions were familiar because there were things that I had experienced in my cases.
Like
right?
you spoke the language already.
Yeah, exactly. You know, a lot of well, I can't really, discuss the format of it, but it was familiar to me because of my experience. And so when you sign up to take the test, they give you just a general guide of what maybe rules will be. And so, rule, let's just say 107, there's a lot of subparts to it. It's not that easy. So the way that I studied for it was I actually took the Texas Family Code itself and just started at the beginning. Now, mind you, I planned this in advance. I started studying months in advance because I didn't want to be rushed. I didn't want to be stressed. I could retain the information better. But I just started from the beginning. A lot of things are familiar, so it goes by fast. Even reading the case law kind of helped get you a better understanding of how the law is applied.
Yeah.
And so I just made my way through. I took my notes. I remember I got to Austin the night before. That morning, stopped at Starbucks, got a little cram session in, and then just went in with my head high. And I had a really good feeling about it.
That's good.
They don't actually tell you got A, B, C, D, 90%. It's just you passed or you didn't.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Mine was
There's
actually
no score.
proctored because it was during COVID. So
wow.
I had to take it at the office that I was working at the time. It was on a Saturday. And even though nobody was supposed to be there on a Saturday, I thought, let me just be safe and put a sign on the door of my office that says, testing in progress, do not enter.
Yeah, yeah.
Lo and behold, the cleaning guy comes in there with his headphones on, vacuum, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm freaking out, and I'm like, and he's like, what? And I'm like, get out. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And as soon as that section ended, I got on the phone and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Please, he's right here. Do you want to talk to him? Like,
I promise I'm
was
not
so
cheating.
scared they were going to fail me because it was the first year that they were doing it proctored. And so they were very serious about the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't look off screen for, too long, any proctored exam.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm kind of jealous that you got to do it in person because I feel like that would have been less stressful.
I did it the year before you did. I went 2019, and it's just a bunch of women and you or men, right?
Yeah, mainly women, but some men.
Yeah. And you can just feel the nervous energy, but everyone with their bags. I bought a laptop just for this exam. Okay,
really?
Yeah, and
I bought a computer just for my bar exam too. I was like, nothing can fail me on this day.
Yeah, same. Like, I'm going to test it out. And I know that a lot of people like mini or small or MacBooks, but I was like, give me the 19-inch screen.
That's what I did.
I need it big. And so, of course, I'd like the biggest laptop there, but it was just so comfortable. And I finished pretty early. I think I was the second person. I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But it ended up being a good thing, right?
Good.
But
I'm a test taker like that. I want to finish as fast as possible.
You are?
Yes, I've always been that way.
Yeah. You're like,
Not
I'm
because,
racing. She was that kid in school that she's like, oh, I finished before you.
Well, I mean, I've fairly gotten decent grades, but I don't. It's like the competitiveness in me. I think I just I don't know.
I'd be like, definitely looking at the time for sure. So we have a paralegal at our firm in Houston, our Houston office that we are sponsoring to get board certified. So what were the things that y'all noticed in her that said she's ready to become board certified? Because y'all came to me with that information that y'all were like, hey, she's doing a really good job, G. We think that the firm should sponsor her into becoming board certified. So what did y'all notice, and what is the advice that y'all have given her now that she's on that journey to become certified?
Okay, so confidence, number one.
Okay.
Right? So second, that she could anticipate the direction that the case needed to go, that she could anticipate what the attorney would need her to do before she asked it. Now, of course, none of us do what we want because we work under the supervision of an attorney. But you notice patterns, you know what needs to be done in cases. And so she didn't need to be asked to do those things. She did them in depth. And she also had a really good rapport with clients, good communication. She was just very confident in what she was doing, and her work product showed it.
So level-headed, too.
Yeah. That's a big asset.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Didn't let the emotional toll of family law distract her from what she needed to really do. I think confidence is definitely something that I took away from that for sure. I was like, yeah, I think that she's ready to become board certified because that's one of the things that we look for in a board certified paralegal. So when I was first starting my firm, just a little bit of a history of how Caitie got brought on. She was the first paralegal. Kathy came shortly after her. I think it was maybe 6 months after her, right? But I put on Facebook, the paralegal group, I'm looking for a board certified paralegal or somebody that has 5 years of experience, because whenever I was first starting the firm, I was a true solo. Obviously, I was still e-filing and doing everything. Thank God I knew how to do those things from my experience. But I went through maybe 2 or 3 legal assistants that I was like, I am taking more time out of my day to train, and my firm does not currently have the resources, the time to train those newly, those new legal assistants, right? So whenever I put it on Facebook, Caitie was the only one that provided her phone number. And I know everybody was like, interested. I'm like, this is not like Facebook Marketplace. Like, this is like, I am looking for.
Is this still available?
Right. Is it still available? I was like, I am looking for a paralegal, like board certified or 5 years, right?
And there I was, just like laying on my couch in my moo-moo, like, wait, what?
I remember it because I was in Granbury. She lived in Fort Worth at the time. And I was on my way to the Tarrant County Courthouse. I don't remember what I was going for. It wasn't a hearing. I think it was like to go pick something up. But she was like, yeah, call me, whatever. So I called her. I was like, hey, I'm actually in Fort Worth. Like, I didn't have an office at the time, a physical office. So I said, do you want to just like meet me at Mesero? And so like we met at a Mexican restaurant. And
that was my first green flag.
Yeah, I was like, this is an interview, but like, you want
some salsa margarita?
Yeah, margarita. Yeah. Yeah, definitely not what we do now, but at the time, it was very much like a good personality fit. Aside from the fact that she had the experience, and I was like, this is not somebody that I'm gonna have to train. She was confident, like Kathy said, right? That's what we look for. I think personality is definitely something that more people need to weigh into their decisions when hiring and, being brought on to a firm. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, tip number 2, or however many we've given at this point,
more than 2.
The art of conversation, which I learned from my dad, like the art of conversation can open so many doors.
Yes.
If you're, I say wheeling and dealing, but if you've just had that art of conversation, you can pick up on subtle cues, whether that be verbal cues from clients, body language cues. If you can pick all that up and work with that and improv on that, that opens so many doors. That makes your clients feel more heard. If you just have that intuition, in your job, both, with your coworkers, your employer, and your clients, I just think that makes the mark of a really good paralegal, just to be that intuitive,
personable,
and anticipate the need, be personable, recognize which clients need a little bit firmer,
Agreed.
Handling versus the ones who are a little bit more sensitive. And that's, I think that is where your confidence can definitely, the fire can be put out a lot quicker if you don't have that confidence. Or if your feelings are easily hurt when you get a tough client, because not everybody's the same. Yeah. You've got to have that skill set to measure yourself, to push forward, pull back. Yeah. I think that is the mark of a really good paralegal.
And thick skin. Yes. I remember we hired somebody in our early days as intake, and, definitely very sensitive to constructive criticism at the time, and it wasn't going to be a good fit. And we wondered, like, I don't know if legal is even a good fit for her in general, Yeah. And so that was one of the conversations we had to have early on. Like, we're looking for somebody with thick skin, because when you are doing trial by fire, like literally trial, and your attorney's like preparing for court, or they've got a lot on their mind, like they're just very direct, Yeah. And not only from the attorney's perspective, but like you said, from the client's perspective. A lot of the times we do see that clients, unfortunately, take out their frustrations, and they don't direct the frustrations at, where they should be directing it. And the paralegal being oftentimes like the first point of contact before they talk to the attorney, they need to have thick skin, and they need to have the confidence, because if they don't have the confidence, then the client is going to feel like, if you're not confident, why should I be confident in you?
Yeah, and they're going to eat you up. And I think that there's a difference between, sensitive, compassionate, and sensitive, defensive.
Yes.
You cannot be unwilling to receive constructive criticism. You understand that even as board certified paralegals, we're still growing. We're always going to grow until one day we're both attorneys. You're board certified attorneys. Yeah. But I think that that's another asset, is confidence with humility and compassion
Yeah.
for your clients. It's not our job to be sensitive. We're humans. It happens.
Right.
It's the client's job to be sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Every client that comes to us in family law is not in a good place. It's not a happy time. They're not hiring us because things are great. It's the opposite. Unless it's an adoption, which is beautiful. We love
Yeah.
that, right? But you have to have thick skin and also understanding that there's a lot of emotion you're going to have to help the client work through.
Yeah.
Especially when you need to get information from them to do your job and they're shutting down because of what's going on in the case,
Yeah.
right? Like the gravity of it. So
I agree.
definitely.
You got to be good at like turning that switch off after the end of the day.
You do, because it
Which-
could be tolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, and I'm sure you have a few too. I mean, there's like 3 cases that over all my years, I'm like, man, that one. Like, I still think about that one, or I
Yeah.
still think about that case, or those kids, or,
They
you
stand
know,
out to you.
Yeah.
for sure.
And they, you know, there are a few that have slipped through that have taken like a personal toll on me, you know, like I'm in there crying with mom at court in the breakout room or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like,
You get attached. You can get attached very
which
quickly.
I wouldn't change that for anything because I mean that gave me such a different perspective. You know, because I don't have kids, and you know that puts you, if for somehow some reason your client happens to know that about you, that puts you at like somewhat of a disadvantage. I think not from every client,
Sure.
but you know,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take any offense to it because
Right.
it's like, oh well, you don't have kids. How would you know?
Sometimes they wonder if the empathy is like genuine.
right.
Versus,
And
yeah.
so it's like that gave me a whole different perspective to sit there and cry with that mom. Like
Yeah.
I felt her pain through and through, and I just was like, I'm in the right spot. Like it was
Yeah.
the worst time,
Yeah.
right? But I'm thinking to myself, like in that moment, like I am where I'm supposed to be, because if she would have had
Anybody
you
else?
know anybody
Yeah.
else or someone who
Yeah.
didn't love their job or who
Right.
didn't love family
Right.
law,
Yeah.
she would not be experiencing this with
Yeah.
someone. She would be
Right.
totally alone
Right.
in the absolute worst position and decision she's ever had to make in her life.
Yeah. And I think that that's important to note, is that like a good paralegal is going to be personable. They're going to be empathetic, right? They're still going to look at the case at face value and like use their intellect as far as like what needs to happen next in the case. But they also need to be there almost like on a somewhat of a personal level for the clients, because they do often act as a barrier between client and attorney. And that's not to say it's in a negative way, because attorneys need to be able to focus in on the law and the facts of your case. Yes, it's important that the attorneys humanize the case as well, but if they cloud their judgment based off of the emotion of the case, that could be detrimental. It could cost a client their case. And so while yes, you know, I think a lot of people come to our firm because we do empathize and we educate and we take the time, I really have to applaud a lot of our administrative staff, our paralegals, that they've definitely taken a lot of that responsibility, so that way the attorneys themselves can focus a little bit less on the emotion and a little bit more on the, you know, law itself, right? That they need to know for the firm and for the case itself. So I
And someone
definitely
who's been
applaud.
on the consumer end of family law, like, I mean, maybe it's not so widely known, but it's kind of what you want.
You want
I mean,
that.
Think about it like doctors, bedside manners. You know, there's a reason that, you know, the infamous joke of doctors don't have bedside manners.
Yeah.
Their nurses do.
Their nurses do.
It's a good analogy for me because, you know, those nurses, they're the boots on the ground, coming in and out, checking on you
Yeah.
hour by hour.
Yeah.
Your doctor is there to look at the broader picture
Yeah.
and say, this is what, you know, my
Yeah.
skill set is, this is what I can do for you, this is how I can treat you.
Yeah.
You know,
We had Amy, our intake, tell us the other day that she was like, oh, this client called and they just needed to vent. They're better now. And I'm like, I'm glad that they vented to you and not at the attorney at their $300, $400 hour rate. You know, but there's like
had
an
my fair share of
aspect.
that over the years.
There's an aspect of like client care, you know, in working in family law. They do look at you, the clients that don't understand between like, do I need to call my therapist in attorney's office? When they don't know that they need to call their therapist and they're calling us, it's like, okay, I want to know that at least, you know, the ones on the front lines, like my paralegals, my intake, that they're compassionate, that they're going to have the patience and to, you know, I guess go through those conversations with the clients, you know?
Well, and to piggyback off that, that's another red flag. If you're interviewing and they tell you, oh, well, you're the gatekeeper for the attorney.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Red flag.
Attorney, because what I notice is that like the attorneys that have the best client control are the ones that are still willing to pick up the phone and talk clients through a crisis at times as well. Because oftentimes, like you've heard it all before, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to the attorney.
Yeah.
And when they demand that, okay, if you want to talk to the attorney,
And I don't take that personally.
Yeah.
Like I used to at the beginning of my career, but like now I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I think we have a pretty good team of attorneys who are compassionate. I used to
Agreed.
joke that like there's a reason why you're an attorney and counselor at law.
Counselor. Truly a counselor.
Really mean counselor, but I mean that's such a part of being a family law attorney.
What about like the elephant in the room? So like the elephant in the room is that paralegals, they hit a glass ceiling. You know, we're fortunate enough to where you can be promoted from, you know, senior paralegal to other positions in the firm. Like I said, Cathie, Caitie. We have so many K's and C's in our firm, like Karen, all, you know. But we are fortunate enough to where our senior paralegals can still get promoted in the firm. But what about at other firms? Like what advice would you give to paralegals that are paralegals by profession? They don't have an interest in going to law school, and they've now hit that glass ceiling in their career.
Let me start. I definitely felt that way at the previous firm. I felt like I hit a plateau of professional growth, of personal growth. And that's when I decided to get busy, right? I said, what can I do? And that's when I learned about like the board certification. And I said, I'm going to do this is to fulfill myself. This is a personal and professional enrichment, but I want to know that I can do this. I'm going to prove to myself that I can do this. It's one of the best things I've ever done. If you have the confidence to do it, I highly encourage you to become a board certified paralegal. It's going to help you professionally more than you realize because you have to have 7 years. I couldn't have done it earlier. So, I wish that for those who are out there and who have the requirement or the eligibility, right, to do it, you become board certified, especially if you're Spanish speaking, because that's such an underrepresented community.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I think that it not only fulfills you professionally, but the salary requirements for board certification, board certified paralegals goes up significantly. And then if you speak Spanish, it's like you are a diamond in the light, you know, it's so hard to come by. And that was one of the things that whenever we were interviewing other paralegals early on in the years of our firm, whenever Caitie and I were interviewing, we were like, we only want to hire board certified because we saw what value Caitie brought into the firm as a board certified paralegal, that we were like, if she needs help, we know that we want to invest in somebody that also has that board certification.
Green flag for employers. Like if that's their first go-to or they care about hiring board certified at all, green flag.
Yeah, because we know that it comes at a cost, definitely. I really appreciate y'all taking a chance on the firm in the beginning because when I first offered them work, I did not even have health insurance to offer them. I was like, I can give y'all a great salary, but I don't have any health insurance. It still astounds me how many firms have been operating for 15 years plus, or even the firms that have been in it for like 5-10 years, and they still don't offer their employees health insurance and maybe I don't know enough about those firms and whatnot, but I know that I have scaled my firm to the extent that we have. Fun fact, before I offered them health insurance, we had like massage benefits in the sense of like people got like a subscription to massage. I was like,
That's good. I appreciate it.
And two things to piggyback off of. One is, oh man, I just forgot it. It just left my brain. It was about being board certified. One was, to look out for is if they don't hire, they have no one board certified on staff.
Yeah. And how many years of experience, how many years of business they've been in. So the firm itself,
too,
right?
Yeah. But then the positive of that, or the other thing of that is when like I'm interviewing people and I see someone who has been a paralegal for 15, 20 years, and they've never gotten board certified. To me, like, I kind of want to toss that out because I'm like,
why?
Why? You have put in so much time and effort. You have made a career. You've spent your lifetime doing this. Like, why don't you value yourself more? That's what I say in my head when I see that. I'm like, you
can't help but to question the ambition.
Right.
Or confidence.
Yes.
Or confidence.
Yeah.
And it's really not as intimidating as you think. I feel like I definitely overstudied, but if you have the experience, you have the knowledge.
Okay, now we're going to do a fun little game. We're going to do rapid fire questions, okay? All right. Okay, so discovery or exhibit prep?
Ooh,
Wait, which one do we like or don't?
No, it's rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Oh, you gotta pick
follow-up
one. Oh, you gotta pick one. Okay, on a cliff, right?
Yeah.
Discovery or
Exhibit prep.
Discovery?
Exhibit prep.
Why?
Discovery. Ugh. That was my hardest.
Discovery is juicy. I mean, that's like the meat of the case.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I like putting the stickers and lining it all up and just like, bam, then this, bam, throw this in their face. Like, no.
Okay. All right, the most used item on your desk.
Okay, this
Say
is
a
so
pen,
random.
say a sticky note.
Okay, so I keep two little like pen needles, like dress pens, like
Why?
needles in my mouse pad because I just pull it out and stick it, like stab it all day. It's like my fidget thing, Like
I never knew that about you. Okay.
I know.
Okay, like I know this is gonna sound crazy, but like my remote control, I need to have white noise in the background. To, like,
you do?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
I never knew those things. Okay. All right, your favorite county to file a lawsuit in?
Ooh, Tarrant County.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
And I know what yours is.
And you know what? I would have said Fort Bend County because that's where like the majority of my experience
That's
is.
what I
but
thought
now
it was.
it's Harris County.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Fort Bend just kind of made it a little bit difficult with like e-filing. You have to redact things, and they've just become really kind of persnickety about it. And I mean, hey, like no,
Persnickety.
yeah, right. But Harris County's like, let's go.
Yeah.
See, Tarrant is
Throw it all out there.
Tarrant's the same thing day in, day out. It's all the same. It's going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's just a little
Consistency.
county.
Yeah. Which is, I thought it was going to be Fort Bend, but I could definitely see how the redactions would be. Whenever I'm looking at case files, I love Harris County because you can see it all.
Same.
And Tarrant County, because we have the subscription to it too. But I'm like, I know that if I look in a file in Harris County, I'm going to be able to click on every single document and access it. So love that. Okay, handwritten notes or typed out?
Typed out.
Typed out. I used to be handwritten, but I've gone more digital.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so final words of encouragement. So anybody looking to get into the family law space, obviously we know board certification is a great route, but other final words of encouragement that you would give them?
You first, popcorn, Kathy.
It's worth the emotional and educational investment. We cannot give legal advice, right? UPL, but it's so good to have that knowledge for just you personally, right? Like,
Yeah.
you are going to find yourself in situations like your clients one day, not necessarily divorce, but just to have that information, I think is really good.
Do you think it makes you better or worse in relationships?
I think it makes,
Aware.
right?
You know too much.
Wait
Too
a
aware.
minute. Well, maybe you should ask my husband, right?
You're too aware of the paths that could go.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like at one point I ended up becoming a family law client, right? So it was good to have that knowledge beforehand. I will say that you get to a plateau where you feel like, or this emotional wall, right? Like, this is a lot. I don't know. I feel like I hit that point about the 7 years, but keep pushing, keep going through it. It's going to get better, and it's absolutely worth it, especially if you become board certified. Just the opportunities it opens up, not just for you, but your family.
Yeah, I love that.
It's very rare that a BCP is out of work. I mean, they're hard to come by. So it's almost jobs. It is job security.
It is job security.
Just under having a bar card, it's a pretty solid way to keep yourself employed.
Yeah.
My advice is more career oriented. Because I didn't want anybody to kind of have the one up on me. And so I just soaked up everything I could find. If I was at a solo, I'm looking at all the work that they did, opening old files.
Yeah.
If I was at a boutique firm, I'm paying attention to, albeit probably on some sort of a creepy level, to what all the other paralegals are doing, like how they interact with their coworkers, how they treat their bosses, how their bosses treat them. I was just always very hyper aware of what made others succeed. And I was like, well, that's me. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
What's something that you wish you knew on day one of being a paralegal that you know now?
How emotionally heavy it is. I don't think it would have changed me, but maybe I just would have been a little bit better prepared. It is a lot, and I think that it's really a good idea for paralegals, and